I'm really excited to announce Marla, Elaine, and Rahima. Marla, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for getting us started, Daryl, and welcome everybody. So today's topic is really interesting, and I think will have good impact on all of you that are on the call. There's been so much question about dealing with our our refugee families as they come in, and the differing levels of technology that they may bring with them, and how much of the world when you get here really requires some ability to be able to maneuver through that. So we thought that just talking about the experiences with technology, hurdles, and some of the opportunities that we see in that space might be super helpful for groups as you're working with your families. We're going to talk for, well, actually, I'm not going to talk. Elaine and Rahima, who will introduce themselves in a couple of moments, will talk for about 45 minutes or so. I have some questions I wanted to ask them that I think will be of interest. As I'm asking these questions and they're answering them, this is more of a fireside chat model. So please drop additional questions into the chat for me, and I'll pick them up as we go through. And we'll also leave a little bit of time at the end in case there's any questions that we missed. So I have been helping with the this committee and with the PRSN now for about 1.5 years. I'm a consultant who works with a volunteer consulting organization, and this has been one of my client groups for a while, and it's just so delightful to always meet new people and to see what great contributions are being made by these people that are doing such important work. So without that, without any further ado, I'm going to pass this over first to Elaine to introduce herself and to tell us why this topic is of interest to you. And then over to Rahima next with the same question. Tell us about yourself and tell us why this topic's interesting to you.
Great. Thanks, Marla. So I'm a retired teacher by profession, but I've been involved in sponsorship in the City of Toronto for the past 20 years. And I think during that time, we've all seen just a huge growth in technology. And so as a result of that growth, our society now expects its members to function with digital literacy, as we call it in education. So naturally, that's going to have an impact on our sponsorship and helping a family to become independent during that sponsorship year. So digital literacy is critical for them.
And Elaine, can you tell us a little more about yourself and some of the experiences you had while you were teaching and then prior to that?
Okay. So I was a teacher for 40 years, about more than half of it in Canada itself, a number of years up in Nunavut and with our First Nations communities, and certainly in Toronto, and then overseas in developing parts of the world. So in Bhutan, I was teaching, in India, teaching, Grenada, teaching in other countries for other governments.
Wonderful. So you've seen the adjustment that has to happen when people are trying to learn something so new. Yes. Great. And you've been involved with this organization for a number of years and have managed many, many sponsorships to date?
Yes, I think I counted about 10 sponsorships, BVOR sponsorships, over those 20 years. And I've been with PRSN for about 3 or 4 years, however long they've been in business.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. And Rahim, let me turn this over to you next and tell us a little bit about your background and also why this is of interest to you as a topic. And I think you're on mute. So, there we go.
Oh,
good.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
So my name is Rahima. I am an immigrant to Canada. 3 years, I can say now, like almost 4 years ago, I came to Canada and start living here. So I have been sponsored by the government. It means that I didn't have like Canadians work with me closely to establish or to get settled in Canada. Yeah, and now I'm working in a social organization. So these topics like caught my interest because I I was a person who was dealing with technologies, with internet, with laptop, with computer, with all these systems back home, and I had the knowledge of using them. But while I came to Canada, I had many challenges, many difficulties to understand how technology get engaged into the system or into the life of the Canadian here, and how I can use them. For example, in health system, in education, in daily use, like for example, in transit, how this technology got involved in the life and how I should use it. So the system was very complicated for me, and it took like long time for me to understand how this system is working. And I think these topics will benefit immigrants and also sponsors to understand how much difficult it is for immigrants to understand the system, to understand the technology, especially those that they have basic knowledge of technology, and they can't even expect that how much this world, like how much Canadians are involved with technology, how much the life of Canadians are involved with technology.
Mhm. And that's a pretty profound statement from someone with as much education as you've had and as you've acquired recently, because I assume much of that would have been through some sort of technology means as well as in class. And so for your experience to be one that's a bit baffling, I can only imagine and empathize for others who haven't had quite as much exposure as you have. So let's go through a couple of just conversation starters. And Elaine, I'd like to start with you. What is the typical level of technology competence that you've experienced with sponsors first? And how has that been an advantage or a disadvantage when it comes to assisting refugees with settlement activities?
Okay. So if I can generalize for a moment, I think many sponsors are retired individuals. And I think there's a strong correlation between age and competency with technology. This can be a disadvantage because helping a newcomer, family, or individual with just the usual sponsorship tasks now often requires a certain degree of functional digital literacy on the part of the sponsor. But this can also be an advantage because younger members of our sponsorship committees, they're sometimes a little too busy to help with the hands-on tasks, but they can certainly help with the tech side of things so that they're continuing to contribute to the sponsorship. So it has both its advantages and disadvantages, but I do feel there is an age discrepancy in technology.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that happens as a result of people who have retired out of the workforce before the last, 5-10 years, when technology improvements and advancements have just become so rapid. And in my experience through COVID, it just accelerated. So if you were not technologically literate prior to COVID, you were forced, you just had to, in order to be able to transact any kind of activity in the country. So yeah, that's great. Rahima, tell us about the same question. What's the typical level of technology competence you see with refugees when they come to Canada?
Talking about the refugees or newcomers, I can say like there are in different level of competencies. There are people that they come to Canada and they don't know how to use a smartphone. So that level of the people, it's very hard. Again, as Aileen said, like there are like younger people that they can teach them, but still they are not in that level of making decision that, that they are like children. So they won't be that much beneficial for the immigrant or newcomer, but still that there is like a help from the younger generation. So the thing is like they will start learning. The younger generation, they can learn faster than the older. So some people, they're coming and they even don't know how to use a smartphone or how to open a laptop. So yeah, there are people that they are coming with an extent of like technology. They have at least a Gmail. they have an email address, so they know how to use the email address, or they know how to have a WhatsApp account and then use from the WhatsApp, or how to use from this smartphone, which makes their life like easier, and then they can start learning. But again, when it's coming like I can see some text in the chat that it's like because of like language barrier, because of the language, it's not getting faster to learn the technology. And also some of people, they're coming, they know how some of these systems are get involved in the traditional way, like on the other system in Canada, for example, in health system and education, they have some extent of information about that, but they don't know fully. So struggling with technology and the system here, that how technology get involved in the system. I think I can say like in different level. So that's how that is the biggest barrier for them, to understand first the system, that how procedures are working here, what are the steps here, and what is the role of technology in this. So for people that they don't have any knowledge of technology, for them first it's like learning the technology is difficult, and then for people that they have some level of some knowledge, some level of this technology knowledge, it's very difficult for them that how they can use that knowledge in systems that exist in Canada.
Mhm. So it's double. It's sometimes not having any knowledge, or having a bit of knowledge of
It's
technology,
double.
but not Canadian knowledge. And then Mickey, thank you for your comments, because language is additionally a challenge, as is the ability to interpret how you would use things like new apps or new tools in order to be able to progress with the things that you need to accomplish. So thank you for those comments. Elaine, let's talk a bit about sponsors who aren't confident with technology. What can they do to still be effective in helping with newcomer settlement?
Yeah, well, they can certainly help with a lot of the more hands-on tasks. So moving day, they can help out. They can escort them to appointments, discuss the budget with the family. None of these require technology. Participate in recreation activities, and certainly provide like English language conversation support. All of that can be done without technology. And one thing we always forget, just visit the family, just develop that friendship there. So there's still a lot that sponsors can do, even if they do not have a level of competency or comfortableness with technology.
That's good to hear. So there's a lot of other tasks that need to be fulfilled over and above that, and perhaps someone else on the team or in the group can pick up the technology pieces if you feel like that's a barrier for you as a sponsor. Don't let that intimidate you.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, Mickey made a nice comment here. This is really interesting about also that communication within the sponsor group, that's defaulting more and more to technology solutions as well. And so if you're not comfortable with how to use it, and most of us have Gmail nailed pretty well, or email of some kind, but calendar coordinating and Dropbox and documents, and trying to find ways to retain all that information or go back and look for it again without having to spend hours trying to recreate something. It's helpful to have some level of knowledge that you're growing. Rahima, this is a similar question, but think about it from the perspective of where newcomers can go to improve their competence with technology. We know language is a challenge, but what can they do to improve in those areas?
For me, because as I said, like I had friends, I tried, like I could make friends in Canada who can help me with the understanding the technology or understanding the procedure in each offices or in each department that I was going. For example, going to hospital. it was okay for me at least to register myself, but I know that for most of the immigrants or newcomers, it's very hard for them to register themselves even in the hospital because they don't know the language, and there's not any other person in the hospital to teach them that how to do it in the language that they are speaking. So that's very hard. That part was easy for me, but I can say this as an example. So I was taking my parents to the hospital. There was like a lot of like this checkups, but I wasn't aware that how I can get the result. So back home, it was very easy that they were giving you the result in a piece of papers, and then you could take that result to the doctor. But here, I wasn't able to get the result and at the same day. And then there was no one to explain me that, okay, there is like a my chart. You can go there, you can see the result online, right? And then I have my parents that who were like, okay, let's go and find it. Like they sent me, and I had no other way to go back to the hospital and say like how I can get this result because my parents want to see the result. Back home, it wasn't like a system that the doctor or the family doctor could get the result directly. So no one explained me this. And then yeah, so this was very difficult for me to get to know the system as a person who knows like who knows how to work with the internet, who knows how to work with a laptop, who knows how to work with a like a smartphone, but still like the small gaps makes my like 2-3 days to go again, like to follow up and to find out like how I can get the results. And if the family doctors get the results, when she will call me or I have to take appointments. So what are these all steps that I have to take? Yeah, so like looking into a lot of like difficulties or a lot of problems, or a very simple examples, I can say like Presto cards. I didn't know how to load it like electronic. I didn't know how to load it through website, and I was going to every station that how I load this Presto card. Like the fund is ended. Like I don't know
Right.
how to like reload it. This was another part till a person comes and explain me like, okay, this is the way that you can load it. So these are very small steps with the technology and with the internet, with the laptop, with the smartphones that needs to be explained to the immigrant or newcomer. Very briefly, like the persons that are, if you see the knowledge of that person is like as mine, so a brief explanation will work. But for a person who doesn't have the knowledge, you have to show like everything by 2-3 times at least, that the person gets to know that what's going on. They are afraid, like when you're coming to Canada, they will tell you, okay, don't open any website because they will take your money. Like there's a lot of fraud going on, like they will take your money, and then they're afraid, okay, if I click this once, like my money will go where? Like all my money is in my card, so someone may take my money. So that is like a bit like a big I can like fear that they
Barrier.
have. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
it's a
how
fear
they're
of using
like
technology.
they're not very comfortable using technology.
So you're making a lot of really interesting points. If I can just summarize what I'm hearing you say is there's such a spectrum of the skill level that could be from really zero skill level in technology, impeded by where do I even go to figure out if I have a little technology, but the systems are all different and it's not always easy to find someone to explain it to you. And if I don't know what questions to ask, like the Presto card is a great example, or the hospital records is a great example, then where do I go to find that information? All the way through to some anxiety that comes from misinformation as well. Like I think that's dangerous. And so now I won't use that mechanism because I'm afraid my money will vanish on me and I won't know how to get it back. And to that question, Elaine, there's a lot of those application priorities to help the newcomers with. Can you talk a little bit about some of those watch outs for the newcomers as it relates to the technology use and what you've seen?
Yeah, and certainly Rahima's touched on them. I think one that we want to make sure is that they know, this is assuming that they have an email account that they know how to use and everything, but to check that junk mail or spam, whatever it's called, in their system, because as we all know, first time emails from a government agency or anything are going to go into that file, and they keep thinking they haven't received it yet, when in fact they have received it. It's just hasn't been moved over to their inbox yet. So that's one. If it's at all possible, let them know the phone number of the person that will be contacting them, because I find a lot of folks will not pick up a call from a number they don't recognize because they're afraid of a scam, as Rahima said. So if you can let them know, or if you know even the first sort of couple of digits, like I think it's 396 is City of Toronto, so you can trust that number, so that they do pick up a call and not miss it. Another one that is just sort of it's not just for newcomers, it's for all of us, but you don't give out personal information over the phone unless you have initiated that call yourself and not the other way around. So if I call my bank and they ask for my mother's maiden name, I'm comfortable giving it because I know I have called my bank. But if someone calls me saying they are Royal Bank and asks for my mother's maiden name, then no, I'm not going to be giving it out. So knowing when you can safely give it, when you've initiated that call and you know who you're talking to, is fine, but not the other way around. And then one that I've seen directly is, we often have to answer these security questions on especially government sites and stuff. And I've found that I have the individual, if they can't write it down, I will write it down for them, what the question is and what they gave as the answer. Okay. And you might think, but that's not necessary. If you are from a small village in Sudan and you know the name of your village, and the security question is, where were you born? And they want to put in that village name. It's not an English term. So now they have to create the English spelling for that village. And the thing is, if you don't spell it the exact same way each time with the same capitalization that you used the original time, it's not going to accept you as a correct answer to that security question. And it's kind of like 3 strikes and you're locked out of your CRA account or whatever. So I've had them write down the question, the answer with the spelling, the capitalization, and reinforce that every time you have to spell it that way and you have to put a capital or not put a capital, whatever you did, each and every time with it, because it seems straightforward, but it can trip them up, and in no time they're locked out, unfortunately.
Right. That's a really good watch out, the interpretation of a translated word, because I think just even all of us have had that experience when you go back in and you can't remember if you capitalized the first word or did I say blue or navy?
Yes.
So, right. Great. Thank you for that. There's some really interesting comments in the chat as well. Is there a list somewhere of kind of the top 10 or 20 sites that require some immediate attention for a newcomer in terms of applications, like a bank, like the Presto, like the hospital record, like the school? Is there a list somewhere that we have? Anybody know that?
Is that a question to the whole group?
Yeah. Yeah. Or Elaine, have you seen anything like that?
I haven't seen a specific list, but I just like the tasks that we help newcomer family with are like health. And Rahim has already mentioned, hospitals expect you to log into their online portal to see your test results, to confirm appointments, to communicate with the doctor. Hospitals now expect that. Education, would be our next thing that we help a family with. And right from elementary schools, right up to colleges and universities, homework assignments are posted online. Report cards and grades are like test results, they're accessed online. For high school kids, you pay your student fees all online. Courses are offered online. Your research is to be done online. So education is huge. Transportation, again, Rahim has mentioned the Presto. Um, to top up, to check your balance, to recover any money if your card is lost or stolen. You've got to register that Presto card. And I know it's the GTA, Hamilton, and Ottawa that use Presto. Not everyone does, but they may have another system where you're expected to do it online. You can see if their subway is shut down, any service disruptions, you got to go online for it. If you want to plan a trip like A to B, how do I get from my home to this new doctor's clinic? I've got to go online to map out how to get there. The Hydro account expects
Yeah.
internet wants you to have an online account. The
Sure.
online banking, of course. The CRA doesn't want to mail out a notice of assessment anymore. They want you to find it online. So it's endless.
There isn't much I can think of that you don't do online, frankly, as I think about, personally my day-to-day life. Daryl, did you want to add something? I see you have your hand up.
I was just going to add, Marla, two things. One is if the sponsors on this call could maybe type into the chat the apps that in your sponsorship during first year, what you found helpful. Some have been listed by Elaine and Rahima, but we could take that list and create a comprehensive resource on the PRSN website. The second is ChatGPT now has gotten to the point where it can be a very useful tool to navigate the so many different digital options out there. So if I was looking for example, Rahima gave an example, right? How do I auto load a Presto card? Type that into ChatGPT and it will give you a list of steps that you will need to do. So I know you need a certain level of digital literacy to use ChatGPT, but if you have that ability, it makes life so much easier navigating the myriad options that are online.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good app because it helps you go to one place to start and then it'll often link you up to the other places so you don't have to just go to Google and get stuck there for however long that takes.
What is that?
Let me go back to a
What is that
question.
app
I'm
again?
sorry.
Sorry, what is that app again? That
Oh,
Daryl just
Chat GPT. It's an
Okay, thank you.
AI generated app. There, it's in the
GPT?
chat. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's in the chat, Jasper.
Right. Thank you.
So there's an interesting question that came up a couple of seconds ago in the chat about, or a comment about the fact that children often of the newcomer families will have a higher technology literacy level than their parents. And I wanted to chat a little bit about that because I think that that's a great solution. But Elaine and Rahima, can you both talk about what happens when that parent-child relationship dynamic changes, where the children know more than the parents, or they become the adult in the relationship relative to technology? And how do we help the children, be tech savvy and still maintain the order that's of comfort for the family? Elaine, can you talk a little bit about that first?
Yeah, well, I think we've seen this before in that we often the children seem to pick up English a little bit faster than the parents, so we sometimes resort to the children helping us translate for the parents. So it's now just that same idea transferred over now to technology, and they are translating the technology piece for their parents. So it can be positive and useful. The young people feel included in a sponsorship. They feel important. They're supporting their family. They're proud of themselves. It can be a very wonderful thing. It can also be a little bit of a problem too. I find kids tend to just do it for their parents rather than take the time to teach their parents how to do it themselves. They will just, create that password and log in for their parents instead of saying, here's how you do it, so that the parent begins to become a little bit more independent. So it can have its pros and cons, I think.
Right. Good. Thanks for that. Rahima, anything to add to that?
Oh, yeah, actually, I'm the person that experienced it a lot. So yeah, I was helping my father with these all technology things. So the thing is like, yeah, it's always very hard to teach them. It's very hard to teach them because it's not easy for them to learn. First is the language. They don't know how to navigate with the English language. There's these all technologies. And if you change it into if you translate the site or like the applications are not like you cannot
Translatable.
translate them into the language that you want, but for the sites you can, yeah, Google make an option that you can translate them into the language that you want, but still that's not the real translation. So there's a lot of problems. And then beside all these things, those children, they have also their own things to do. Like they have a huge responsibility of themselves, like to do their homework, to submit their homework, or like if they are in schools, or if they're working to go to job and then come back and dealing with like a lot of lessons to the parents. And then if you are coming from a country like I came from Afghanistan, so there is a lot of like this respect level that you should give to your parents, and having that all these things together is very difficult for the children, and I can see that they will be under a lot of pressure, like doing a lot of things, and sometimes that they feel like I will do this and like I will just do it for you but not teach you, because sometimes they're making it in a wrong way and you are now in trouble to fix them. You have to go to bank to, okay, like he doesn't want it, like my father doesn't want it to send money to this person's, to this account. He wanted to send to this person, but it gets sent to another one, like all these problems. So she or he should find out how to deal with that. Also, I can see that there is like a confidence level that the parents will lose their confidence, will lose their like authority over the children's, because now everything will be in the hands of the children. Everything, like their financial, the money, everything is related to the internet, and it's online, like the banking, the education, the health system. Recently, I was talking with one of my friends whose mom was sick. And then the mom was like, I want you, like the mom was asking me to go with her to the hospital and then talk to the doctor, or to the family doctor, talk to the doctor. And then she wanted me to do the interpretation, not her children, because she was worried that my children will not tell me the truth, what's going on in my health. So all these things. And then she said like, okay, there is a report, you can read this report. But she said like, no, I don't believe the report, you have to go and talk to the doctor and then do interpretation. Like these are all the difficulties that the children's are getting. I know it's not only one side, also parents are feeling so unconfident, and it's in some points they're saying like, I'm not gonna learn anymore, it's okay, like I'm gonna give everything to my children and they should handle it. So there is a lot of adjustments should be added, like there's a lot of things to get settled when you're coming in a new culture, in a new environment. So I agree, like for both parts it's very difficult.
That's a really great summary that you just provided, Rahima. Elaine, let me ask you, based on some of what Rahima just shared, how would you advise other sponsors what to be on the alert for? Like what to look out for with the family that they're sponsoring, so that they can be watchful of those things?
Yeah, and I think every sponsorship is different. Every family is different. The dynamics are different, and they change over time. So I think when folks first arrive, I think we sometimes just have to take a step back. They're dealing with a lot. As Rahima said, a whole new culture, a whole new country. They've left behind a lot. They want to keep up and be excited and be happy, but there's loss there. So sort of putting technology on top of all of this, as Rahima mentioned, not an area that many parents are comfortable with. we've got to just ease them into it. Sponsorship is 1 year, so we don't have to do it all in the first month, and maybe we do it for them initially, and then we, gradually show them parts of it, and then we step back and watch as they do it, so they're not making mistakes, and hand it over there. But one point I just want to make is often the women coming have less technology awareness than the men. We've seen married couples where the man has the email address the family will use, and the man has the smartphone or whatever, and has a bit of digital literacy. But the women, again, might be due to the language, but are also they're much farther behind in technology. So I think it's really important that we empower these women to also be a part, not be afraid of the technology, and to make sure we are including them. I know it's faster and easier to deal with the one who knows the most in the family, whether that's the adult child or the father or the mother, but you need to include everybody in the family, because you don't want those dynamics to be upset. They're going to be rocked as it is in Canada with the different components and the different freedoms we give young people here that they may not be used to. So we just want to be mindful of that, and just mindful of the interactions. And as I say, encouraging the parents to take as much control as they can over their own business affairs and everything.
Very good advice. Thank you. Thanks for that. Let's talk a little bit about what's worked well. What have you seen that was successful or that was really helpful that you thought, yeah, we should do this again the next time? Rahima, why don't you go first? Tell us about what's worked well and how you've used technology in your adjusting as a newcomer and how you've helped others. And then we'll pass it over to Elaine to answer.
Thank you, Marla. For me, it was more like showing and teaching to, well, it's always easy to teach technology in the language that they know, not in English, because it will be more confusing for them. I'll always change the language and then show press this button, or at least show them the signs. These are the signs that you can go through all the processes. Sometimes, unfortunately, some of the newcomers, it's hard for them because they are not educated at all, even if in their own language. So the signs is always better, or counting the steps. I was showing them how they can get their report, how they can register themselves, all these things. But for people that they are educated, or at least they can read and write in their own language, always making a note for them is good. Showing them the sign, or maybe 2-3 times just repeat for them, or do the same task and show them at the same time how you are doing and what are the results. Or if you do it wrong, what will be the result. So all these steps will make them comfortable to do it. Sometimes it happens for me that when I'm at work, so out of sudden they're calling me this happens, I did all these steps, but this happens, how I can solve it. I'm like, okay, turn it into a video call. Then I'm showing how to do it properly. So I think a lot of teaching, also making whatever you're saying, making a record for them so they can refer to it when you are not around. That will help them a lot. And also make them comfortable to ask from others, from Canadians. My parents had difficulty to get engaged with the Canadians, or asking from others, because they were like, I cannot trust anyone. But now they feel more comfortable. They know they can go to the reception and then just ask them for somehow they just to. The good thing is they are now in good level of English, so they can at least transfer what they want, so they can show them how they can go and process their work.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. And the idea of just get on a video call or record it so that somebody can listen to it again after you've hung up is a really helpful tool for people. Thanks for sharing that. Elaine, in your experience, what have you found that's worked well and how
Mhm.
you've used technology as this asset?
Yeah, well, one example, it sort of came about by accident in a sense. I was trying to teach one of our young newcomers. He had got his driver's license and he even purchased a vehicle and was driving for Uber. And part of Uber drivers, you have to submit your GST, HST that you've collected from the customers every month back to CRA. And I've learned it's a very complicated process. They do not make it easy at CRA to do this for the self-employed Uber drivers. So this is something that has to be done every month, but it's only done once a month. So you don't remember things when you only do them once a month. As Rahima said, sometimes you have to see it a few times. Um, so I was helping them and I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have to do this every month for them. But on the third month, his wife had the brilliant idea of making a video of the laptop that I was working on. So it followed the cursor and what I clicked on. And if I had to scroll down, sometimes I would just say scroll down, and the video would show me scrolling down because you can't find the next button until you scroll down, the button that says next to go to the next page. So she videotaped all of this, and so it's now she and her husband watch their little video every month, and they submit their GST on their own because they have a video of me going through it. So I did it one last time with them with that video, and darn it all, they can do it themselves now, and they're probably showing other people. So it's great. So sometimes
That's wonderful.
your best resource is the newcomer themselves.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. YouTube also has like lots of those videos that people post. Although I find they often go so fast, like you have to watch it a couple of times and then keep stopping as you do it. So your description of videotaping while you're actually doing this or video recording is really helpful. So they can go back and look at your actual keystrokes and what you're touching. So that's great. Right. Is there anything I haven't thought to ask you to, Elaine or Rahima, in terms of the technology literacy and the obstacles and the challenges and the successes that you've seen?
I think we've covered a lot, but there might be some good questions coming up
Mm-hmm.
from the crowd.
Rahima, anything I haven't thought to ask you yet?
No, I think we covered everything. But
Wonderful.
if
All right.
questions-
Good, thank you. So there's been some really good dialogue in the chat box. I'm not going to go back and read it, but there were a couple of questions. One was about a list of apps or a list on the website. So we talked about that. And then all the other places that kind of top 10 places where you're going to have to use technology, or top 20 really fast, and how to get people started. And we've had some good dialogue about do, and then show and tell and watch, observe, correct, and then allow the other person to learn how to do it themselves. So that's great. Let's turn this over to the group and open it up. Are there any questions from the group that you'd like to ask either Elaine or Rahima or both? And feel free to just put your hand up or just speak. Daryl?
Yeah, it's a question for both Elaine and Rahima, and thank you for sharing your experiences with technology. When you think about your own learning with technology, either with your sponsor group or as a newcomer, is there a particular person who was a really good coach? Like the feedback or the coaching they gave you, like really made a difference? And can you maybe think about that person and like what or how did they approach showing or teaching you something that resonated well?
Okay, I'll jump in first. Well, as an educator, technology's been a part of the classroom for decades, of course. So we were, welcomed it into the classroom, of course. So I became comfortable with it to a certain degree. Then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, the pandemic really sped things up because we had to switch to online teaching. So it wasn't so much a specific person that helped me. It was more, it's that feeling of, and we've mentioned it a bit, that this is not something to be afraid of. To try to jump in. It's not the end of the world. Usually, if you click the wrong button, might make things a little bit more difficult. But just go slow at your own pace and develop a little confidence. And I think not only did I have to do that as a teacher in her final years of teaching, develop that confidence with technology, which I still don't completely have, but I'm comfortable with it. And again, that's something we want our newcomers to not be scared of it, not be afraid of it. And from there, as Rahim said, they will learn to ask other people for help. They will learn and grow and practice. So to me, it's that taking away the fear of technology and replacing it with a little bit of confidence is the best teacher.
Great, thank you. Rahima, same question. Is there anybody in particular or any style in particular that was of most value to you?
For me, it's the, I can say like, there's two things with Canadians and also with newcomers. So newcomers, they are a little bit shy to ask. They think they will be judged if they ask questions, like very basic question about the technology, about the system. So they are thinking that maybe it's a very basic things, and then the Canadians will think that, okay, how you came to Canada if you don't know all these things, you know? It's very hard. That's like we should work with the newcomer to remove that kinds of mindset and to stay confident that the technology is something very, it's very advanced. Even like Canadians, they are struggling to learn it. So it's not only like when they listen, it's like ongoing. People are keep learning about technology or about the systems. And then about Canadians, I think like the teachers are they that just teach me, they were escaping some steps that were very important while they were teaching me. When you're teaching a newcomer, you should go really in details. They even don't know like how to like scroll down, for example. So it wasn't with me, but when now I'm like going through, for example, fill out their form, so they should know, okay, click this part, it will scroll down. Or if it's touch screen, just like scroll down with your finger, like you can do it like this. Very small steps should be considered when you're teaching a newcomer. I know that there is a consideration. You should not like let them to feel that they are really, they don't know anything, not something, or like when you're like teaching them, just show that, okay, like I am scroll down like this, and then I'm going here, and then step to a step. Yeah, I'm focusing on this part because it impacted me a lot. Like when people were teaching me, some people were teaching me and some people were not teaching me the steps, and I was feeling like, oh, I feel so down, like I don't know anything. What will happen to all these education that I get? What happened that all these knowledge that I get, and like now here I'm zero, I don't know anything, right? So all these feelings, newcomers, they are very sensitive, but they don't show in my idea. So that is how it's very good when you're teaching it, like consider all these steps, but not really showing them that they don't know anything. Because already they have that feeling that, oh, I am here, like I have to start from the zero. What will happen if they know that I don't know anything? Right? It's also a fear that they have, an anxiety that every day will increase.
Yeah, that's a really good comment because it's so easy when you're teaching somebody or showing somebody to assume that the simple things they know already without stopping to think about how much of it we just do by routine, right? So
Mm.
that's a really good call out. Thank you. Nikki, you had your hand up. Where did you go? There you are.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, both Elaine and Rahima. You touched on the things a little bit. I'm currently sponsoring part of the sponsorship group who sponsors a young woman who speaks her own language is Arabic and Aramaic. And Aramaic or Amharic. Yeah, Amharic. But so she has a cell phone, and we gave her a new cell phone, but she does not really respond to questions, and I do all the medical. She thinks she can use it. She can use the phone, but again, she doesn't know how to. The English she's working very hard at her. She's taking language classes every day. But how can I be in a sensitive way tell her and our group tell her that she should really take a course and learn how to do documents, because we don't know where she stores her documents when she gets her results. She's never, most people in African countries, they have a cell phone and they only do WhatsApp and messaging, but they don't have the full Microsoft. I know it myself. I joined the workforce after 22 years being out of the workforce. I had to take a months-long TDSB course, and that was in the language not my own language. Then I also dealt with people who are completely illiterate. They lived and will never be literate in English either. They lived in a refugee camp for a long time. And there are men who think they know it all because they have 6 children or 8 children, and they had special task in the refugee camp where they work with Médecins Sans Frontières or when they come here, and they think they can just transfer their skills, and they never teach their wife anything. And so there's the whole scala of different problems. And it's very challenging, I find. And within the sponsorship group, you can also have differences in skills, but also have differences in opinions. How much should we actually teach to people? How much it can be very discouraging because we know, as you said, Rahima, in how can you find employment if you don't know how to use these skills at all these days? It's just impossible.
And Mickey, in your group, can you share something that you've done that's worked effectively?
No, we've sort of gone around it. So the last group of people we sponsored that was the issue of the men. The woman, she had a young child. She went to language school. I don't know. They left town. He couldn't find a job, and they live in Edmonton. And he was a bit stubborn, he pretended he knew everything. He was a proud man. And he had his cell phone. The kids had the cell phone. They were at school, high school. But also, I don't know what they require now to do for newcomers. There are, of course, special ed ESL classes. So, but I've also been a very intense. We have a big thunderstorm here in the annex. With a family who had 4 children who were also from a refugee camp, and the parents were illiterate in their own language. They were workers on the land. The father couldn't even write like an X. He just did a little. So the children had to do everything for them, the banking. And so within our spot, to answer your question, we had 1 or 2 people who were dedicated to guiding them in everything, the banking. And then eventually the oldest daughter, and she still does it occasionally. They've been here now. They become Canadians, all the children, wonderful citizens. But, they still do everything for the parents. He had never had a phone, he never seen a phone, be it a landline or a cell phone. So these are things for us that are to deal with people who are completely illiterate. They cannot tell time either. They went by the sun. That this was a fantastic learning experience for our group. but so it permeates in everything. You have to be very, anyway, if anybody can give me some advice here that I haven't discovered myself yet. Elaine, I know you have a wealth of experience. Are there classes that we can, is the TDSB still offering these courses for people who are, because it's not part of their ESL. They don't learn, they don't show them computer literacy.
Right. I mean, for the younger people, TDSB certainly has computer literacy courses right from kindergarten up. They are introducing the children to computers. So, and then the
so the
adult
children-
ESL, there'll be TDSB courses available through their, I think it's called Learn for Life kind of program that you can sign up for online, of course.
They have to register separately, yeah. Okay, but it's a separate
Thank you.
course, so
Yeah,
they have to
separate.
be convinced that they need that. They think they can do it already for the little WhatsApp,
Yeah.
but that's not
Yeah.
sufficient.
It's
And
different,
that
yeah,
hurdle
Thank
I
you for
find
that.
difficult.
Okay.
right. Well, thank you for your comments as well, Mickey. I think in the last minute, we're going to turn it over to Daryl, who has a comment, and then we'll wrap up from there since we're almost at the top of the hour. Daryl? Oop, you're on mute, Daryl.
Mute.
So
Thank
I
you.
just want to wrap things up by saying, Marla, fantastic job moderating this session. I actually learned a few things, and thank you so much, Elaine and Rahima, for sharing your experiences. This was very helpful. And we'll add one comment. Now, Mickey described a very tough situation where if you have a sponsoree who is illiterate in their own language, never mind English, I can't think of anything other than what's worked with a slightly different situation in my sponsor group. And that is,
Mhm.
if you're dealing with an Afghan or a Kenyan or Ugandan, and you don't have anyone in your sponsor group that speaks that language, their mother tongue, the best thing you can do is find a way to connect them with someone in their community who's slightly more advanced than they are from a digital perspective, because that connection is immediate and they are able to relate without what Rahima identified as the fear of looking silly and not feeling too shy to ask the question. It might be a strategy you consider.
Mhm.
We are at time. So listen, thank you so much. Once you drop off, there will be a survey that will take you 2 or 3 minutes to fill out. I would really appreciate that for us. And we look forward to seeing you. We're going to take a break over the summer, but October 15th is our next Lunch and Learn. Stay tuned for more details about that.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the summer.